What's a tip that everyone should know which might one day save their life? Unless there is a danger in doing so, stay in your car if you're stranded in the desert snow. Edit. Okay, yes, if you're in the desert you may need to get under your car because of the heat, but don't get away from your car. Your car is easier to find than you. Edit 2, and yes, if you know where you are and know how to get safely to a safe place, do it, but don't go to search for help without aim. Edit 3, don't walk on the roadside, you're gonna get hit. Don't pour water on a grease fire. One of the many things I watched on TV as a kid were Elvis Presley movies. In one of his movies he has a date with a girl in her apartment. She cooks a roast in the oven for their dinner. Elvis arrives and the food is burning. Flames are shooting out of the oven. She makes a move to throw water on the fire, but Elvis stops her and grabs a container of salt and throws handfuls of salt onto the fire, which promptly puts it out. One day I'm sitting in the living room when I hear my mother yell from the kitchen. I race there and flames are leaping out of the broiler. Huge grease fire. Almost as high as the stove itself. Mother makes a move to throw water on it, but remembering how Elvis did it, I stop her. Then I grab a container of salt and throw handfuls of salt onto the fire, which immediately extinguishes the flames within seconds. Mother looks at me with a surprised expression on her face and she asks me, "How did you know to do that?" "Thanks, Elvis." "Thank you very much." Calm people live, tense people die. The most important thing you can ever do in a potentially life-threatening situation is breathe, when possible, and focus on doing things calmly. You can always freak out later. Panic after you survive. My parents got into a car accident before I was born. Drunk driver hit their taxi, and luckily they were so drunk that they were incredibly calm about it, and were then told that's what may have saved their lives. This is why drunk drivers tend to survive more than their victims. Drunks tend to ragdoll. How can I train myself to become a living ragdoll? Do I just try to copy wacky inflatable men? Know how to swim. You don't need to be Michael Phelps, but it's great to be able to swim decently and tread water. Also, if you're ever kidnapped, try to leave personal items along the way, like drop a ring or earring in the car or something. It can be helpful to find you and is evidence in trial. Edit, first gold. Thank you. I'm an idiot and left my wallet on my car when pumping gas, and drove off with it on there. It fell off on the side of the interstate, and a couple saw it and pulled over to use my ID to find both me and my parents on Facebook to message us. They wanted to be sure that I wasn't kidnapped and threw it out as a clue. I had never even thought of that before, but I remember thinking, what a clever idea. Not going to lie, that's incredibly sweet how concerned they were about someone they didn't know. At all costs, don't let an attacker drag you into a vehicle. You never want to go to a second location. Also, if you do get put into a car, I read to urinate, spit, pull hair out to get your DNA in the car. Edit, just read that urine isn't an ideal way to get DNA, but at least it will be suspicious. Edit 2, wow, thanks for platinum. As much DNA as you can. If you have to soil yourself, so be it. As much DNA as you can. Okay, penis, we've had years of endless training and conditioning, and now it's your time to shine, little buddy. Let's do this. Kidnapper, what the duck? If you're lost in the woods, don't leave your location. People searching for you will start at your last known location heading, and you'll just make their job harder by expanding the search area. If you must leave, follow water. Early city towns were usually founded near a source of water. If you follow a stream, you're more likely to run into civilization. Usually downstream, but really depends where you are. Edit, Jeebus people, I'm not saying this is a magical spell that protects you from everything, or a universal law that works 100% of the time. Apparently I need to clarify not to follow the water off a cliff, into a cave, into a tiger pit, into a van marked free candy, or into a free Scientology audit. Added bonus of following the water is that the searchers might put 2 and 2 together and follow it after you. And you have water. Maybe. That, and it is extremely easy to get turned around in the woods. Everything looks the exact same, so most people who get lost end up walking in a circle until they die without ever even realizing they were walking in a circle. If you follow water downstream, you are at the very least walking in one single direction and know you're not getting turned around. That is the best course of action if nobody is looking for you, i.e., you went for a hike and told nobody where you were going. If you're stabbed or impaled and the offending object is still in your body, do not pull it out. Doing so can make you bleed out. I have seen a lot of people who believe this is a myth and natural instinct says to pull out something that puncturing you, but this is extremely important. Leave it in until a medical professional can remove it. If the object goes in the body and smoothly, it will more than likely create a wound internally that is almost identical in size to the object, so it essentially acts as a plug. If it is pulled out, any blood vessels that are cut will no longer have the knife's edges pressing against them and they will begin to bleed. If you pull it out and don't notice a lot of blood, the bleeding could be internal so you wouldn't even realize that you are bleeding. You could also do some serious damage pulling out the object. My wife is a trauma surgeon and has had people cut organs pulling out knives or other sharp objects. When my son had a piece of fence go through his foot at a friend's house, he called me and I told him to stay still until the paramedics got to the scene. He knew not to pull it out. Once they got there, they were able to stabilize it until he got to the hospital so it could be removed. Even if the object is too big to be moved with you, the EMS or whoever arrives on the scene can cut it down in size so it can be moved. Never remove it. Whoa, hold up. A piece of fence? How in the heck did that happen? I wasn't there, but from what I heard, the kids were climbing on the fence to get on top of the shed. They were jumping off the shed into the pool because the friend didn't have a diving board. My son is on the smaller side for his age and had to step on the top of the wood picket fence to get himself up. He stepped on it, fell, and a piece of the fence came down with him inside his foot. He's my accident-prone kid. He's active and plays sports, so he usually comes home with something wrong. If he's limping, we will usually just ask him how bad it is and if we even want to know what happened. We put in a diving board for our pool shortly after that, and he usually invites his friends here to swim in the summer. Edit, to give a sense of just how accident-prone he is, when the incident happened he called and pretty calmly said, "I fell off the fence at Carson's house and a piece broke off into my foot. His mom wants to talk to you." I told my son not to move or remove it. He said he knew and handed the phone to his friend's mom, who was freaking out. When I left my house, I told my daughter I had to go pick up her brother because he has part of a fence stuck in his foot. She barely flinched and said to tell him he's an idiot. A fence is the foot is a normal Tuesday around here. My wife sometimes questions letting him play sports, but he'd still find a way to get hurt. Vomiting can make a potential rapist leave you alone. If nothing else works, put your finger down your throat, kids. My brother went to New Orleans with his buddy and their girlfriends. While walking around, they get stopped by the huge black guy in a crisp white suit, and he says this: "I'm gonna give y'all kids some rules to follow while you're here. 1. Never leave your drinks unattended. Everyone will try to put shit in there, even the bartenders. 2. You boys don't ever let your girls walk alone on these streets, even with a weapon. They might get taken. 3. If you're walking down a neighborhood and you don't see any children wandering around, leave immediately. If it's not safe enough for the kids, it ain't safe for you. 4. If y'all wanna buy some crack, I got some." Edit, thanks for the gold, guys. Chaotic good. If you ever feel intense pressure in your chest that radiates up into your jaw, you are probably having a heart attack. Source, had heart attack last month. I get this feeling every time I eat 188 sushis at the all-you-can-eat sushi buffet. You joke, but heartburn is seriously hard to distinguish from a heart attack. I almost went to the ER one day before my wife explained that it was just heartburn. Edit, holy cow, Reddit is really passionate about heartburn. If you've been stabbed, leave the sharp object in the wound until it can be treated by a professional. Sometimes the knife stick whatever is the only thing sealing the wound so you don't bleed out. On a similar note, if you for some reason get stabbed in the eye with a stick, cover both eyes. Moving your injured eye can cause more damage, and it's impossible to move your eyes independently, and if they aren't covered you'll instinctively look around with the uninjured one. Source, Boy Scout First Aid Training. I've never thought about the fact that you can't move your eyes independently. Now it's driving me insane that I can. It would probably drive you more insane if you could.